2025 doesn't just bring more zombie movies. It unleashes a whole new wave of post-apocalyptic chaos. From snow-covered survival dramas to brutal martial arts, horror, and secret Nazi experiments, this year's releases go all in. These aren't just films. They're gut-punch stories about fear, trust, and what's left when the world ends. If you're into fast zombies, broken worlds, and human darkness, this list was made for you. Woken. Imagine waking up on a desolate island. You don't remember who you are, and a strange man tells you he is your husband. So begins Woken, a dark sci-fi thriller set in 2025. The main character, Anna, is pregnant and surrounded by people who claim to want to help her. But something is not right here. There's a mysterious pandemic going on in the background. The world outside the island is practically non-existent, and visits from strangers and strange procedures only add to her anxiety. With each passing day, Anna discovers that this place is not a refuge, it's a laboratory, and she may be an experiment, the last hope of humanity, or just a tool. The film is gripping, asking difficult questions about trust, freedom, and the limits of humanity. If you like post-apo climates and psychological thrillers with a suffocating atmosphere, Woken is something for you. Ziam. What would you do if the hospital where your loved one lies was suddenly overrun by zombies? Ziam is a 2025 Thai action horror film that throws us right into the middle of such a nightmare. Singh, a former Muay Thai champion, wants only one thing: a peaceful life with Rin, a doctor at a local clinic. But when the zombie outbreak hits full force and the hospital turns into a death trap, Singh doesn't reach for a gun, only his own fists. He fights as if in a cage, except that here the stakes are lives, and the opponents are not athletes, but merciless monsters. Every blow, every move is a fight for survival, not only for him, but also for the innocent boy he meets on his way. Ziam is a brutal, stylish mix of horror and martial arts that proves that strength of heart is sometimes enough to survive the apocalypse. Zombies of the Third Reich. You don't even know what you're getting into until you walk into a bunker full of dead bodies, which are not dead at all. Zombies of the Third Reich from 2025 takes us back to the final days of World War II. A group of Allied commandos is sent to a secret Nazi bunker. The goal, to get data on an alleged nuclear project. But instead of documents, they find living nightmares, experimental zombie soldiers created by fanatical Third Reich scientists. These creatures are fast, brutal, and know no fear. A desperate fight for life begins, in which it is no longer about winning the war, but about not becoming one of them. This is a bloody mix of horror and war action for fans of strong thrills. Uncontained. Think about what you would do if you woke up under the snow, with no memory, in a world that has already ended. Uncontained, from 2025, is a chilling post-apocalyptic story about a man who ends up in a cut-off house in the woods. There he meets two children, Jack and Brooke, who live alone, protecting themselves from a mysterious plague. But these are not typical zombies. The infected may look normal until they aren't. Every day is a struggle with the disease, with distrust, with loneliness. When armed militia appear on the horizon looking for their own, the tension reaches its zenith. The film mixes horror with drama, and the snowy setting heightens the feeling of isolation. Uncontained doesn't scare with cheap effects. It hits the emotions and shows that the biggest monsters can hide in people. Forgive us all. No one knows how they would really behave when the world turns into hell. 2025's Forgive Us All is a moving, dark horror film with a touch of Western that portrays this very moment. Rory, a young woman in mourning, hides alone in a mountain cabin after a plague has turned humans into savage, flesh-eating monsters. The silence is broken by the appearance of an injured man who speaks of a safe place and an organization that supposedly helps people survive. But can he be trusted? Is this deliverance or another threat? The film is not only frightening, but also tells a story of loss, loneliness, and the struggle of a mother who no longer wants to run away. Forgive Us all stays in the mind long after the screening, raw, emotional, and frighteningly human. After Impact. If everything you know ceased to exist overnight, what would you do? After Impact is a quiet but powerful post-apocalyptic drama from New Zealand that doesn't show explosions or mutants, but something much more realistic: life after the end of the world. The main character, Ethan, loses his family in a global catastrophe and inherits an abandoned greenhouse. There he tries to rebuild not only the crops, but also himself. When he meets other survivors, Connor and Jesse, he begins to understand that survival is not only about food and shelter, but also about emotions, closeness, and hope. It's a film about the quiet after the storm, about how humanity can survive even the greatest collapse. After Impact doesn't scream, it whispers. But those whispers stay in your head for a long time. Abadi Nan Jaya. This film will take you right into the middle of the Indonesian zombie apocalypse. Abadi Nan Jaya from 2025 is the story of a family that has to flee a city gripped by a mysterious epidemic. The virus is spreading rapidly, turning people into unstoppable monsters. Every day is a fight for life, and every decision could be the last. Amid the smoke, screams, and chaos, the heroes set off for a place called the Last Safe Haven. But what they encounter along the way will test their humanity, loyalty, and the strength of their family. This isn't just a zombie movie. It's a story about how far we are willing to go to protect those we love. Lisik, Origin Point. Everyone thinks the apocalypse will start with bombs and fire. But in Lisik, Origin Point, it all starts quietly, with a school experiment that was supposed to remain a secret. No one expected that one mistake would turn students into bloodthirsty creatures called Lisik. Within hours, an ordinary school turns into a death zone. The main characters, Kara and Elisha, try to find their way in a world that no longer has rules. Kara is grieving for her brother. Elisha is driven by anger and a desire for revenge. But as the infection draws ever closer, both face a choice, whether to keep their humanity or become a monster. The film is an emotional tale of friendship, loss, and moral boundaries in a world without rules. Lisik, Origin Point shows that the real battle is not only with what's on the outside, but also with what's awakening inside us. That's 2025 in blood, chaos, and survival. A year packed with raw stories, shocking visuals, and brutal truths. Which one will stick with you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more apocalyptic journeys, subscribe. Because the end is just getting started.